Good morning, I'm Matt Yolson. Welcome to our second segment of Breakfast with Bill and Jody. Today we have Sam Simmons and Zach Shems. Ms. Jegan, you had the chance to go to a one-to-one environment. What were some of the reasons why?
Well, 2 years ago we went to a field trip of sorts with 9 staff members. We went a little professional development. We visited the school district in New Jersey. The school district was already into a one-to-one environment, and for me, I remember visiting one classroom. I walked in, it was an Italian classroom, and I walked in, they were working in groups. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I walk over and I said, oh, what are you guys doing? And they said, we're working in groups. We all have assignments here, and they all have their laptops out, and they were working. And they were waiting for another group in another part of the room to submit work so they could approve it before they could go on. So they had assignments all over the classroom. I was like, this is the coolest thing. I was like, we could be doing this. And then really just the casual conversations with students. I stopped students in the hallways. I stopped students at different spots around the building. And they all said it was a great thing. They said even if the teachers weren't as proficient, some that weren't as proficient as others, they said organizationally it was just a million times better for them, that they could get organized and they could truly manage what they did before. One student said he was like a pig pen, and he had stuff everywhere, and now he put things in his folders on his computer, and he was much more organized. So for those reasons alone, I thought it was worth it. But Ms. Lambert, do you want to share anything else?
Well, and I think the testament to, now that we're on the other side, we've gone to the one-to-one, it was so seamless, and the kids so took that up, and we can access all their assignments online, and the backpacks are lighter. Yeah. Our need to purchase textbooks is less. I mean, I feel like the fact that the kids have taken it and run with it tells us that we did the right thing. It tells us that it's working for the kids. I hear very little technological complaint from any kids. It's working for them. They're getting their assignments done. They're accessing teachers. I just feel like it's a win-win all the way across the board. It's just been a boon for our school.
Well, certainly we want to hear from you guys. What do you think, Sam?
Well, I personally like having my laptop at school. I brought it before we were even required to have it. And it's just like really convenient to have like a Microsoft spreadsheet with me in class. But it's kind of the way the teachers sometimes use it in replacement for, say, like writing the homework on the board is kind of annoying. But it's definitely a lot more convenient. It's
definitely a switch of sorts. You know, it's a getting used to period.
Yeah.
Zach, how about you?
I kind of beg to differ. I just don't think that it's that convenient to me. It slows me down. And it doesn't, I mean, I do manage with it, and I get my classwork done. And I do well with my teachers and everything. But it's just very difficult and time-consuming to me.
In what way?
Just like doing homework and stuff and turning on my computer. It'll take a while just to get it starting and working properly. But
your computer itself?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I do manage. I mean, I guess that's just my own opinion on things, but that's just me.
You know, it's interesting sometimes too when you start something, and then if we were to pull back in some ways, you might find it more difficult to go back the other way.
So we're sort of in that adjustment spot right now. You know what I mean? And I think, and you guys are probably better at it than some of the adults even in the building, you know, because you're so used to technology that we're also getting used to.
Matt, how about you?
I enjoy having the one-to-one because instead of going home, carrying all the textbooks and doing the work, I could like do the assignment on Kia, get it done, or do Google Docs and just hand it in right away, so I know I'm done. I don't have to worry about it later.
Yeah. Now you just talked about a couple applications that are being used pretty much school-wide. All the teachers have an account on Kia, whether they use it or not. I'm not necessarily totally sure that every teacher uses Kia. It wasn't mandated or anything like that, but they all have the option to use it. Are you guys all using Kia as assessments in some of your classes at the very least?
Yeah. I use Edmodo, Kia, our Power School, the website, wikis. There's a lot of different websites that I use, which do help in the long run. But
well, certainly I think there's an organizational piece with some of them. As far as they can help organize what the classes are doing and seeing, you should have an idea of what's coming up. But as far as what you use in class, like Kia is an assessment tool where you guys are assessed. Hopefully, it's a little bit different than some of the assessment in class. Like a teacher could be doing an assessment in Kia in class and have an idea of what everybody did almost instantaneously. With that too, it was interesting because we, I guess, piloted the use of Kia a couple of years ago, and I remember going into a history class, and the teacher was talking about reasons why he thought Kia was fantastic, and what he had mentioned was that there was a particular student who was not necessarily vocal in class, but they were much more vocal in the assessment tool. So it was a way for students to contribute that don't normally contribute. So I thought that was a unique way to really kind of make sure that all students are participating. But you guys talked about Google Docs as well. We're becoming a Google Apps school per se, where you guys all have emails, and it hasn't worked out as efficiently as it will once the teachers' emails are turned on and things like that, which should be happening very soon. But you're noticing that many schools around the country are starting to go to Google Apps. We're kind of in the forefront in this area in our transition toward technology, but we're certainly not alone. The real big push is open source, and you guys mentioned a couple things that are really open source. You want to get as much free use as you can. Edmodo is an example of a free source where teachers have a platform to go back and forth, and Edmodo, for people who don't know, is the educational Facebook, where you can go back and forth with a teacher. Our math classes are using it to post notes so that you can see your notes when you go home, but really it's also can be a back and forth with a teacher or students within the class as well. And Google Docs is obviously a way that really all classes at this point are using it. Can you give examples of some of your classes where you're using these tools?
In Algebra 2, we're using, with Mr. Crowley, Edmodo, and he posts all the notes and homework assignments online. So it's easier to do our assignments, and it's more convenient, I guess.
Do you find yourself referencing the notes, like if you're doing homework at night and you kind of forget one of the steps or one of the things you said in class?
Me personally, I'm fairly good at math.
You're a good math student, yeah.
I think it's an easier course for me, so I don't necessarily use it. But kids that don't necessarily get it right on the spot like that, I'm assuming that they would go on there and use it, I hope at least.
I've thought about that myself. I remember vividly being in high school going, I got this, I know exactly what's going on. And then you go home to like, no idea how he solved that problem.
I forgot what he said.
Yeah.
Right, so you can go back and look.
Now you can go back and explore and check it out and kind of go through the steps of how a problem is solved.
Yeah.
Good. How about you, Sam?
Well, I know for the past couple of years we've been using the Wiki in all the English classes, and some students complain that the Wiki is really confusing, but I think it's convenient the way they have like everything we've been doing on it, and it's kind of all just in front of you.
Including some text.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to go in and read, you can read right off of there, or obviously all your assignments are, and your links to all your assignments are right there. You know, certainly that's one thing. When we, a few years ago, mandated that teachers had websites and we tried to make it all uniform, some of the teachers really went beyond that. So we didn't want to totally make them all uniform or all the same. Some of the issues with that is exactly what you're talking about with the wikis. There's maybe a little bit of confusion with some of the stuff that you might see. But certainly the benefits, I think, outweigh it, and we're trying to standardize some stuff as we're going along as well. What else, man? What else have you noticed in use of technology in the building?
I know that a lot of teachers basically live on Kia, because I know Mr. Siegel does a lot.
Okay.
He does all of his tests, all of his notes, because his classes all online, because he's the one that doesn't want to use pencil or paper anymore. He just wants it all hands-on. With Mr. Yanaway, his notes and his homework assignments are online too. You could do homework for Google Docs and send it in to him, so he knows you've done it.
Yeah. And certainly what you're noticing as far as a trend even nationally is the opportunity to go more digital, to be less paper and pencil. Now, technology should never replace paper and pencil. Like, for example, a math class. You're not going to come in and never use a pencil again.
Yeah.
However, you have to be prepared to use technology. We're transitioning to a different test in a couple of years in the state. Like now we use the CMT and CAPT. We're transitioning to a smarter balance test where you will do some of the work on the computer. So definitely you want to be able to live in both worlds, so to speak. I also see a big push for us to be creating your own textbooks, so we don't have to purchase textbooks. I know, does anybody have Mrs. Pepler at all?
I had it last year.
Okay.
Live Finder.
But she creates a live binder with sociology and psychology. And I definitely see more of a push to creating our own resources versus having to use paid resources. I think that's going to be the wave of the future.
And in a broader sense, I think that the world is more digital. I mean, I know my daughter applied for a job online. You're going to apply to colleges online. I know you register for SATs online. My bank statement is about to not be available to me on paper. It's only going to come into my inbox. They started to cut Social Security checks for the elderly, direct deposit only. They won't mail them a check anymore. So it's almost like, at least from my perspective, where I sit, the society at large is kind of pushing us into this completely digital world. And so I really feel like you guys are going to be in good shape when you get out into the world, knowing how to manage that and how to navigate some of that, especially as you start to apply to colleges. Applications, electronic.
I think it definitely benefits us in the
Yes.
future.
Yes, you won't be daunted by that. You'll be like, well, I got this. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. You know how to do it.
And that's a good point, because as I started the segment, we started talking about the reasons to go to one-on-one, and when we visited those schools in New Jersey, it was actually Pascack Regional High School.
Yeah.
They're 60 miles away from us, and truthfully, you guys are going to be competing with those kids for jobs at some point. Within a 60-mile radius, that's certainly, you guys can meet halfway and be competing for the same jobs. And more importantly, be competing when you go to college. You want to be as prepared and ready to do college work when you get there. You don't have to learn all this stuff. So the fact that you can move on to the next level and be prepared is really the reason why we transitioned toward being as technologically savvy as we are trying to be.
I think a lot of occupations are starting to demand like digital collaboration and stuff that it's not necessarily like you show up in an office and you work a job, the way that it was traditionally when we were younger. So.
Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this segment of Breakfast with Bill and Jody, and hopefully next time we'll see some new candidates moving forward as well.